Hello and welcome to another Marvel panel discussion and review. I am at a different location, which is a long story, but that doesn't matter. As long as I'm here, that's all that matters. And I'm here with Callum, who's always bloody here.
All right. Yeah, I'm always there.
Yeah, he's just like a fucking won't go away. But it's like a bad cough. Nah, it's all good. If it wasn't for you, these reviews would probably die because Anthony can't be asked going on them.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm
Adam,
the one who has to put up with these films.
yeah, and I don't know what Adam's just Adam's AWOL in just whatever, and
He's
Josh,
probably in the same room as Jake's in right now, just in AWOL, like you said.
yeah, and Josh Hunt is still dead from watching Incredible Hulk.
That was like 6 months ago, so we're sort of concerned.
Yeah, even though like he's made posts on Facebook about Endgame, that was just his girlfriend. It's fine. He's dead. Or maybe it was that Wendy's drink he was having. Someone spiked it.
No.
But that doesn't matter because today we are going to be reviewing something much better than Josh Hunt's livelihood, and that's X-Men Origins Wolverine. Patreon.com/GenesisVandrazani if you'd like to support the channel. We have early access, exclusive access, and requesting videos for us to do in the master tier. Twitter.com/Giandrazani if you'd like to see me have arguments with salty Matt Smith fans. Like I did
Oh boy.
Yes, there's a whole bunch of pages you can follow that are interactive and mostly friendly. But yeah, watch out because if you piss people off, you might trigger certain
You
motives.
might hurt their subjective feelings.
Yeah, how dare I, with my critical eye, what a bastard I am. But yes, G Andrazani on Twitter. That's the page. And yeah, it's all range of things you'll find on there. But with that nonsense out of the way, I guess we'll get on to the actual what we're actually talking about, not just dumb shit like that. Callum,
Yes.
give me your 2-minute initial thoughts on the film titled X-Men Origins Wolverine. And don't forget the semicolon. It's very important.
Is there a semicolon in the title?
Or is it a colon or a semicolon? I think it's just a colon.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, but man, this one is known for being. I think is known to be like the worst one, as far as I'm aware. Before Dark Phoenix came out, I was pretty sure that this is one of the more infamous bad ones.
Yeah.
So watching it for the first time, I had very low expectations for it, and I was sort of surprised by how not terrible it was, but it's still not great. The highlights I would say is some action scenes are okay. I think the story concept is actually pretty decent, but I don't think it's too well executed. And man, this film has not aged well at all with its effects. The effects are definitely the worst part about this film. They are some of the worst I've seen. Not even kidding. They are very bad. Probably my favorite part about it was probably Hugh Jackman, but not surprisingly, I actually did enjoy like learning more about him. And I think in hindsight, his story is good, but I think it's just the execution I have the major problem with. Other than that, I think it's a very odd film. It's so many weird things they try to juggle, and it doesn't all blend together well. So overall, while I don't think it's the worst X-Men film, I predict that this won't be the worst. It's still not good at all. It's still pretty mediocre.
So with me, going into this knowing that David Benioff wrote the script for this film, I sort of had an idea of what this might turn out to be. And for the most part, I think I was proven right. The biggest problem with this film is that its purpose is a backstory, and a backstory is very, very, very reliant on continuity, and the reason why is because people pay fucking attention to these films, even if you're
Some do.
even if you're just the thing is like even if you're just someone who watches these films casually, the way that the X-Men films present to you certain backstory elements, specifically X-Men 2, are very, very important to the film. So people will remember things. And what you get is a classic David Benioff trope, and that is fan fiction. So when you do fan fiction with continuity, that's when things get a bit messy and it gets a bit odd. And yes, this film was a combination of the flaws of X-Men as a whole that were already there, combined with the flaws that I have seen from late seasons of Game of Thrones, where it's just a bunch of fan fiction and it's a bit messy. And yeah, I don't think this is like the worst film ever. Like, it's not nowhere near that. But what I will say is there were moments in this film that pissed me off, having seen Game of Thrones, knowing that David Benioff wrote this, and seeing the same tropes that pissed me off before with his writing, done again in an X-Men film, became quite a troublesome experience. So I'll say that. I'll say that. That's my overall feeling. I was worried about what might happen with this circumstance, and unfortunately, it really showed. Which will be interesting when him and Douchebag get the Star Wars films.
Oh god.
But yeah, with that out of the way, let's start with Logan, aka Wolverine, aka Jimmy.
Yeah, they sort of just keep saying Jimmy a lot, and I was just like, is that his actual name? I'm assuming it is.
I think his dad called him James.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Very confusing, that.
Yeah, it's very odd. But I would say he's definitely probably the best part about this film, and that's mainly just to do with it's Hugh Jackman, and he understands the character pretty well. And I think what he does well is that even though at the end of the film he forgets like everything about him, he still does a good job to see like not fully developing his character before like X-Men, because obviously this is before. So I think he does a very good job at playing the same character, but he is a little bit different.
Yeah.
It's very entertaining, and I think that I do like in concept the story that they tell with him. It wasn't what I was expecting, I don't think, because when they said in X-Men 2 that he volunteered to do the experiment, I thought it would be like he was fully up for just doing it, but instead they present it in a way that he was tricked into it. So I think that was a okay way to tell it. I think I would have preferred something else, but that's what they did. And I think the action scenes in concept are great. It's just the effects are the major thing that hold everything down. Anything that they do any with the effects, the claws look awful. That scene when he's looking in the mirror, it looks like plastic, but bad plastic. It is so bad.
Yeah, especially considering this is odd, considering that the effects in The Last Stand were like really, really crisp.
Even the first one were probably better. In the first one, it was better than this, and that was in this case 9 years ago when this released.
Yeah.
So like, I don't understand how they look that bad. They obviously probably rushed it, I assumed, but they look awful. So I don't know why they just didn't give him actual like fake claws, like fake claw props. That would look 1,000 times better.
Yeah.
It's just
but
like,
I would say that weirdly, this is probably his best performance so far from the ones we've reviewed. It's odd. As an actor,
I would say
he's
so,
actually as an actor, he's actually very good in this film. Unfortunately, it's just the story he's written into is very just all over the place and quite. It's so weird how this film just creates random characters around him and then just kills them.
Oh
And
yeah.
that to me is the biggest
Yeah.
like nitpick I have with the film is the fact that this is exactly what they did with Game of Thrones when the books ran out. They just like, oh, we'll just kill all the characters because it's a plot twist.
Mm. I mean, yeah, there was like you got Charlie from Lost who dies in the first 10, 15 minutes of the film, and you've got Will I Am, you've got
Yeah,
a really big dude who just sort of we only see him once and he doesn't actually die.
yeah.
He's
And then
just
you
really
got
fat,
his girlfriend who dies, but it isn't dead. It's like a
and
big
then dies
ball.
again.
Yeah, and then she dies again, and then there's Deadpool, well not Deadpool yet, but whatever.
Shit
Yeah,
pool, because this is
yeah,
an awful
yeah,
rendition of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, it's like it's like if it's like the equivalent of like Topher Grace's Venom, like except they managed to cast the same guy again weirdly and make it work. But whatever, we'll get to Deadpool later. But and then you had the old people in the barn. And then you had like there's just so many characters that just die in this film. It's very odd. Um, oh, and bloody doesn't he like kill his dad at the start of the film too?
Yeah, because he thinks the guy he kills his actual dad, but in reality, the guy who killed the man was his dad, and then he killed him.
Yeah, yeah. So hang on a second. I got a little bit confused in that scene because I was trying to think through what I'd actually been told because sometimes the explanation in these films behind his powers can get a bit muddy because it's obviously
Yeah,
been altered by this experiment. So when at the start of the film when he had the claws come out, but obviously it wasn't the metal ones, but they
his
were bone, right?
bones. They
Yeah,
were his bones.
yeah. So what is that? Like, why do his bones come out like that?
I think it's just his mutation. I think that's
Yeah.
just how he is.
Did they?
That in a sense, you don't really need an explanation of how he has the claws because
No,
every
you
other
do.
character you could ask.
No, you do. Do you know why? Do you know why
Why?
you do need this explained? Because the film is called X-Men Origins
Mm,
Wolverine. The whole point of the film is to explain why he has
mm,
these powers. So, like,
mm.
if you're gonna
I
leave
would
it
say
open,
I would say they explain why he has the metal
yeah,
like claws.
yeah,
I would say it's odd because like, I'm not that bothered by like learning how he got it because it's just from like it seems like just random people do get their own powers. It seems I think that's the way they sort of
yeah, yeah,
say it, but they actually
yeah,
explain why his actual powers are like metal, why he has an
yeah, yeah.
exoskeleton, even
I
though
know
that wasn't
that.
his original thing.
I
Yeah.
know that, but I just found it a bit odd that it was like the powers they explain in the first X-Men film. They explain that his power is that he repairs himself, and they
Hmm.
explain that someone in X-Men 2 they explain that someone put all this what was it called again? Adamantium.
Yeah.
Um, they someone put all this adamantium in his body as well. They explain that, but they don't explain why he has bones coming out his hands. Like I don't that's nothing to do with him repairing his body, right? That's just some random
Mm,
thing that he has.
I don't know. I don't, that's not so. I don't think that it bothers me too much. I think because obviously the way I just see it is that some mutants just have powers and that's who they are. It's just to do with their DNA. I do find it odd how he has two powers that can seem kind of separate, but at the
Hmm.
same time, it's like if you're moving bones around your body, it would probably like hurt. So that's
Yeah,
probably why he has like the repaired so that it doesn't break his whole bone structure, I guess, is the
yeah,
way you could sort of explain it. But
yeah,
I'm not too bothered about like the specifics of how he got his powers rather than how he came to be,
yeah.
I guess, in a
It's
sense.
obviously some kind of animal mutation, and it's got
Yeah.
a repair, like I'm going to repair myself as well, thing to it as well. Um, and I was a bit confused. Like I'm not 100% sure on the science behind it, but when I saw him stab his father with bones, I was like, wait, is that how it works? Are bones that sharp that they pierce skin? I didn't realize that. He just
Oh yeah, that's I would seem they're pretty sharp,
yeah,
honestly.
okay. Yeah, I was
And
just a
plus
bit
they
like,
are literally and they're shaped literally almost of like daggers as well.
that's true.
So
Yeah. So like it would pierce skin, but it wouldn't pierce a door like the metal ones do.
I wouldn't assume so, no.
Right. Okay. So the adamantium is just like extra
because it's
power.
yeah, it's like the strongest metal. It's unbreakable, so it makes sense that it can almost cut through literally everything
Yeah.
pretty easily.
It's the strongest non-magical metal in RuneScape, I can tell you that. um yeah. Wolverine needs to upgrade to rune claws. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so we get that shit, and then he's got like a bunch of storylines. One with his another fucking character that dies is that guy, the light bulb guy. He dies as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But
Like that's the actor from Lost dies in the first
yeah,
15 minutes. Just yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the weird thing about this film is I think the weirdest part of this film is the fact that the title is so specific, because it is, yes, it does give origins to Wolverine, but there's so many parts of the film that don't feel connected to the X-Men trilogy. They feel like they're self-contained, and that's the part that I was a bit like, oh, that's a bit odd. And what maybe pissed off some people when they saw this was that there was minimal focus on the actual origin of Wolverine, and it was very clear that they're like, oh, we need to build this universe with lots of mutants because money.
Yeah.
So they had like the bit at the start where it's like, oh, he's got a team of mutants, and then oh, he's got a girlfriend, oh, he's got a brother, oh, there's a moral conflict. There's like, oh, we're gonna have like a, Hollywood plot structure on top of all this origin story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that creates a bit of a mess, because then you're having to please a certain group of fans that want to see the origin of Wolverine, on top of the fact that you want to make a story that's coherent, and you're not clever enough to write something that's actually interesting that isn't outside of the structure. I feel like that, to me, is one of the biggest problems with the way this film is made, is that it's trying to cling on to two different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I basically echo a lot of what you said. The performance is great, but it's just like, yeah, I feel like I can't really say anything without going on to other characters, because
I can't really.
yeah. But that's the one big positive I'll say is Hugh Jackman's performance is very, very good, and on purely an entertainment value, he carries me through the film.
Definitely.
Which is,
I think without him, I would find it quite a struggle to get through.
Mm-hmm. Well, without him, it would be like watching Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton.
Yeah.
Where you've got like a main cast member who's just not captivating at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I'm not really, like I said, I'm not really sure what else to say about him other than, I mean, I suppose the ending would be a very big talking point for him, because he forgets, doesn't he? Like, he has his memory wiped. Yeah. But wait, how does he have it wiped again?
Because the bullet is adamantium, it could like actually like affect his brain, because it can go through, but he can't like die. I think I saw someone say that it is scientifically like accurate if that something like that actually happened, that he would lose his like memory. So
he got like the most major concussion possible, and then his tissue repaired itself, but his brain didn't.
Yeah, his brain couldn't fix
itself. He's lucky he didn't go like have other problems, because I can imagine like he could be like paralyzed or whatever, or like have some really major disabilities from that kind of gunshot to the head. But yeah, I think also, if you're looking past the sort of comic book bits more into the just as a story as a whole, I feel like because this film ends with him losing his mind, well, not losing his mind, losing his memory, it creates a very odd ending, because it's a necessary ending, because that's what leads into X-Men with him not knowing what he's doing, but
it just sort of feels like it ends.
Yeah,
but because he stops.
just the actual structure of the film, it feels a bit anticlimactic.
Yeah. It's almost as if totally forgot that he did lose his memory, and I was like, oh, yeah, he needs to lose his memory at the end of this film, and you're
Yeah,
just sort of like, oh,
and it's not, and even though obviously it does make sense for the adamantium built bullet, I feel like the moment isn't really that satisfying like it should be. Like for example, like a compare that to like Donna in Journey's End when she loses her memory. It's this absolutely heartbreaking moment. I feel like that's the kind of thing that you would want from a Logan origin story. Is that he doesn't want to lose his memory. He desperately wants to hang on to it, and then he loses it. Like that
if
would be.
he finds out the concept that he will lose his memory if X happens, and he will try all he can to avoid it, but then it happens, and it's like it also makes it more impactful if like, because I think we had this discussion the other day where we talked about like it doesn't make Donna losing her memory wasteful because you have the Doctor to feel the repercussions of that. So they still matter
and
because there's a
Donna's
character
family too,
reacting to it.
and Donna's family too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when obviously when he goes to see Wilfred again, like they discuss it, and it's and there's that scene.
Yeah.
I was funnily enough, I think I was watching that scene. I was either yesterday or it was this morning, where he's like Wilfred's almost on the verge of tears. He's like, "Can't you bring her back? You're so clever. She was better with you." And he's like, "I can't do that." And it's very sad, like the fact that she lost all that. But yeah, with the end of this film with Wolverine, it was just a bit like, oh, yep, that he shot him.
Yeah, and every character that probably could, apart from Sabretooth, I think that's what they say, he's the only one that could explain his origin because he's obviously his brother. But everybody else, apart from Ryder, they don't know his actual origin. They don't know what he's about. Everyone else is sort of dead.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like that's because the end of the film is like when you're watching it, you're like, oh, so that links up to X-Men, great. Whereas within the story, it's telling it doesn't really have an impact. It's just, oh, we have to do this at the end because that's what happens. And it's almost like one of those problems that you have where it's like, oh, you already know what's going to happen because it's, it's a prequel. So, but then again, there are prequels that work in some ways, even though you know what's going to happen. Like, one of the things that I would say about, obviously, the film has a lot of different things that you could talk about that went wrong, but as a kid, especially watching Revenge of the Sith, knowing that where it was leading, like everyone who'd seen Star Wars knew what was going to happen at the end, obviously, because it's like, yeah, this is the one where Anakin turns to the dark side. But probably one of my favorite things about that film is it makes you want him to not do it. It desperately makes you want him to not do it, and even though you know it's going to happen. And then when he does do it, it's such a horrible moment because it's like, fuck. Oh, this character that I've been invested in is turning into what I know he's meant to be. And then when the mask comes on, it's just this almost like wet your pants moment when Vader first breathes. So I feel like the end of this film needed to have that kind of vibe to it, where it's like this is the moment where he becomes what we know him to be, but we don't want it to happen.
Yeah, because the whole point of the original X-Men trilogy was him learning more about his past, and it ultimately leading up to that. And this film should have been, like you say, something like that. It feels like it almost got tacked on at the end. I would say, even though we know it's going to happen, it felt so tacked on in a narrative sense.
It does, which is not good because it's a very important part.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of some of the more sort of continuity-based problems with this film, when I talk about them, I'm going to say it's not necessarily like I'm not going to say, oh, I watched it and what happened was terrible. It's going to be like they should have done it this way and made it better because this should be, a big deal. But yeah, anything else you want to say about Wolverine before we move on to the next character?
I remember one bit is like when we see that his original partner like died. w- why didn't he check for any like scratches or like cuts anything? Even though she was just covered in blood. As we find out later, she's just covered in blood with no scratches or claws. So surely he would have just seen her body just covered in blood. That seems very odd to me.
Oh,
That he
he's
wouldn't check
dumb.
that.
He's just
Yeah,
dumb.
they obviously explain how like she takes a drug to make it seem like that she is dead.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't he
But
check?
like,
It's
yeah,
his
why wouldn't he check
fucking.
her body?
If it was the love of your life, you would desperately, desperately want to save them, even if it looks like they're dead.
Yeah, if it would just seem like she died from a heart attack and it wasn't Victor's fault, even though he goes on to say, "Oh, you killed her. I'm gonna kill you." You know, it just seems very odd to me.
Yeah. And like, and also like, if your partner did die, wouldn't you like want to take their body and like
Yeah,
do
marry
whatever
it
you want,
or
do whatever you want to do with it, like cremate it, bury it, or just
yeah, before you go off and try to kill Victor. Yeah,
yeah, not just leave it in the woods to rot.
because
You know,
because she eventually wakes up and just goes to like a rider's base at the end of the film.
yeah.
So
This is such a classic David Benioff bullshit moment. It's like,
mhm.
oh, he thought she was dead, but he forgot to check her.
Dramatic moment. Shout no into the sky. Oh.
Wolverine forgot that the Iron Fleet was there.
Wolverine just sort of forgot to check any cuts or things on her body.
But don't worry about that. We've got a scene with a zombie polar bear.
Don't worry, we have Deadpool.
Fuck. Anyway, should we move on to Victor Creed?
Mm-hmm.
This was his brother, right?
Yep.
Played by Liev Schreiber as the actor's name, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recognize
So
him for a couple things.
yeah. So yeah, Victor Creed. I really don't like the actor that plays him when he's a kid. Really don't like that kid actor. It was fucking awful.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We gotta stick together.
Oh, oh,
You did it. He deserved it.
God.
Luckily, it's only like 2 minutes of the film. So.
Yeah, I was thinking like if we get a whole fucking 20 minutes of this, I'm not I don't want to watch it. Fucking bad child acting.
Luckily, that transitions into probably the best part about the film, which is the opening credits.
Oh yes.
I
Holy
really like
shit.
that.
That reminded me of like when you start like a campaign in Modern Warfare 2 or something. Like one
Yeah,
of those.
it does look either like a recap of the last film, or last game,
Awesome.
or it does like a montage. Yeah, it's really cool. I
Yeah.
really like that.
It's like da-da-da-da-da, freeze frame, fast frame rate, like X-Men Origins Wolverine in the desert with guns and mud,
Yeah,
gritty. That was awesome. That opening credits.
yeah.
But yes, Wolverine's brother, Victor Creed.
I wasn't a fan of the performance and sort of the character, to be quite honest.
He just goes
He
around killing people for no reason.
he was very much a mindless goon to me.
Mm.
Though I do appreciate they try to do like because they are him and Wolverine are quite similar in their power. Their like technicality of their weapons. You could say
I would say
different.
yes in terms of that, yes, but I would also argue that the two actors don't mesh really well. I don't buy
Yeah.
I don't buy that they're brothers. They feel very separate.
Yeah. Yeah, I do appreciate they tried to say like the difference between the two characters. They're very similar, but they go off in different paths. So I do appreciate the concept they're trying to do there. I just don't think it's executed well, and I don't think the performance from Victor is good. It felt very bland for a character so trying to be very intimidating.
Yeah, I feel like there was only really two ways you could have gone with that. It was like you either have to be extremely scary, like fucking nightmare fuel actor, like one of those, or you have to be campy. Like you have to be really like a Willem Dafoe kind of performance. Like it would have to be like that.
I
Um,
think my favorite part from him is probably when he's killing the guy with the electricity like powers, and he's like, "I'm not afraid of dying," and he's like, "Why not? You never tried it before." And so I quite like that line, but
mm,
it again the actor isn't that convincing. I think.
yeah, like the only thing that kept on reminding me that he was his brother was the fact that he had the mutton chops and he had the claws like thingy from his hands or whatever he had. It was
Yeah.
something, but what was it? What was it again? He had it was a what was his power again? The
He was ever claws like his nails.
yeah, it was his
And
nails.
he was basically he was like a more wild animal than Logan is
Yeah,
because
and
he
he
can
could
climb up
what is it?
walls and stuff.
Could he like turn off lights as well? I don't know what that was about.
No, it's very weird. I just find this whole film very odd.
Yeah, yeah, it's all over the place as well.
Yeah,
Like like I would say not obviously not as bad as like something like Venom, but the pacing was weird
no,
because it was so. It felt like I was stuck in some like American countryside TV drama for a bit of it. Like all the scenes with Will I Am, it's like I'm watching fucking Banshee or something. I was like, what the hell's this?
he was so out of place.
Yeah. Um.
Not a good
But then,
actor.
yeah,
So
yeah. Like I like the setting, but it felt too similar to a whole bunch of like country films that I've seen. It felt nothing like an X-Men film at all, and it didn't quite hit the mark with its pacing, I think.
no.
But yeah, like just whenever Victor Creed was on screen, I was just like, I just don't fucking care.
Yeah, I also the same. I just didn't find him that interesting. I didn't find him
Yeah.
that
And
intimidating.
then like just out of nowhere for absolutely no reason, like at the end of the film, he's like, "Hey, but we're still brothers because we got to
Yeah,
fight Deadpool because he's the actual villain."
and then he just disappears, never to be seen again.
Yeah, he just jumps, doesn't he?
Yeah, because like it's so odd how like having him. They probably should have had him just die. I think because it feels so weird that
Yeah.
because this is a
The funny thing is, this film has like 52,000 deaths in it, and the one that should have happened didn't happen.
yeah because like where did he go? Where's he gone?
Yeah,
Why isn't he
exactly.
in the original trilogy? Even though he's probably heard that Wolverine is now like an X-Men, you know. So it'd be quite odd that he doesn't show up at all.
Where was the Order 66 moment?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe he'll turn up in Days of Future Past or some bullshit like that.
I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if we literally don't see him ever again. I would not be shocked, or even just a callback to him.
Yeah, who knows? Um, uh, I don't really ever want. I don't even really want to talk about him anymore. I just don't give a shit.
I just realised something. Is the guy who died at the very beginning of the film, who is meant to be like Logan's father, isn't
Mm.
that the same guy who was in Waters of Mars? Because I feel like I recognise the guy.
Oh,
He's the
probably.
guy who died in the spaceship.
Oh, the Australian guy.
Yes, I've recognised his face.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah. Doesn't it like I can't remember what he says, but like when he goes to press the button and he gets the water on it, doesn't he say like, "Oh, bugger"? I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He just
yeah. Maybe that just fills in my head because I expect him to say
yeah,
it.
exactly. If it was actual like real, like he probably would say it was that something like that.
What is a Mars is just the best. It's so
Oh yeah,
fucking good.
it's so good.
Like when like he's just like I'm so sorry and like his eyes fill with white and he just pushes
Hmm.
the self destruct button.
Yeah. See you later.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
then the most heartbreaking one is when that woman like watches that video of her children and then like
Oh
the
yeah.
water comes down on her. And, oh,
It's such a clever way to make you care about characters you've only just met.
I don't understand how Davies got away with having that on TV. Like it's
Mm.
so fucking dark, and like the
Yeah,
design of the monsters as well. Oh, why are we talking about that? Why are
because
we
it's
talking about
great.
something? Why are we... God, distracted by something great because I don't want to talk about this.
No.
It's funny because Waters of Mars came out the same year as Wolverine, and it has
Oh
better
yeah, it would have.
and
It would have as well.
it has better CGI, and it was made by the BBC. Think about
And
that.
it's a British television on a budget, and it looks better than this.
Yeah, it's written by a soap opera drama writer, and it's like fucking million times better looking than this film, which is meant to be like a blockbuster Hollywood X-Men film. And it's coming off Last Stand, which was like one of the highest grossing ever or something like that. I don't know.
And it's
At the
funny
time.
because the main character of that particular story doesn't want to do anything up until the very end, and it's still engaging. So
Oh dear. Yeah.
anyway, X-Men Origins.
Yeah. The thing I found the funniest about the franchise, like I obviously didn't watch the film when it came out, but when I watched, when I saw the titles of films, as they were coming out, I remember when this one was coming out, everyone at school was like, "Oh, they're gonna do a whole series of origins and all the different characters." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that sounds alright." And then I noticed like none of the other films are called Origins, so like there's literally only one because it fucking failed. Even though there is technically another one, but it's not called Origins. That's the thing that I found funny about it. Anyway, William Stryker. So if I'm correct, he's the one that he put the adamantium into Logan, right? He was the
Yes, he was
old
involved with
guy.
the whole project.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I was when I
and he
saw
was in
that.
X-Men 2.
So yeah, was it the same guy from X-Men 2?
Yes, yes.
So
Yeah.
why does he look old here and he looks young there?
I would argue he looks younger here. The other guy is like he's bigger and he looks a lot older in X-Men 2.
Doesn't he have grey hair here though?
He has grey hair in both, I would say, but he
Wait,
looks
hang
younger
on.
here.
Hang on. William Stryker in X-Men 2. I need to look up that picture because I think I might be getting...
He's the guy who gets tied up in the dam at the
Hang
end
on,
of the film.
because that's the one I'm thinking of, but might be confusing myself.
No, oh no. This guy is like he looks a lot younger.
But he is because I know he has grey hair in Origins because I remember. Oh, that's very odd. Okay, that's weird. I don't remember him looking like that when I watched X-Men 2. I remember him being like young and having black hair. That's very...
Oh no, he was not young at all.
Okay, I don't know why I thought that. That's why I got so confused. I was like, hang on a second, how did he get younger? I thought it was like a massive plot hole. Like as if it was like the wrong character. And I was like,
no, he's definitely younger here, I would say.
Okay. Well, now that I've got that out the way, William Stryker, how was that for you? That character?
Again, much like in X-Men 2, I didn't really take to him. Like it was so odd. I don't know. He was the mental threat for Logan, while Victor was the physical threat. So like, both I felt were just quite unengaging. And while I was interested to see how Logan became like infused with the adamantium, I still felt like I didn't care about anything apart from Logan itself. You know.
Well, I mean, this film has the problem of too many villains. You know, you've got Victor Creed, you've got Deadpool, and you've got this guy.
Yeah.
And you know, as we know, having 3 villains is not easy to balance. But I feel like if you compare, like, I feel like you could make comparisons to, like, not in a good way, but I was thinking in terms of the way that the villains are laid out, what it's meant to be like, is it's meant to be like, this guy is like the Alexander Pierce, whereas, like, I feel like Deadpool's supposed to be like the Winter Soldier, except obviously we don't care, because it's not good.
Awful. Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. It's weird because like Deadpool and Victor Creed both are like both the Winter Soldier. They're like Bucky and the Winter Soldier, but they're separate characters. It's odd. It's like, wouldn't it be so much better if we just didn't have one of them?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, William Stryker, yeah. I mean, in terms of plot, it made sense. It tied into X-Men 2. It was like, it worked, I suppose, in the sense that it did all the things that, like, it's like checklist. Yeah, there's a list of things we have to do to make sure that it connects to these other films. And then once that was out the way, they're like, okay, we don't need this character.
No.
Because that's all that fucking mattered.
Yeah. I just think it was very poorly executed.
Yep. Though I will say, I do like the scenes, and from a cinematography point of view, I do really like the scenes when they're putting the adamantium into him. The visualization of that is done very well. It's very tense. From like a superficial point of view, those scenes are fantastic.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the better scenes in the film because I felt like you could actually feel it.
And I think they knew that they had to get that part right because that's the one thing that everyone wanted to see was when he has the adamantium put into him.
Yeah,
and I remember when I got to that part of the film, I'm like, fuck, I finally actually care. Like, I actually am interested now. It's like, how long into the film? Like almost an hour, or even more than that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a really good scene, and I think it was decently done, I would say.
What actually happens to him at the end? He just like, does he just go away, or
because the girl that Logan was with, because her power was persuasion, he persuaded Ryder to walk until his feet bled. So that's what happened to him, and then obviously he goes on to do what he does in X-Men 2. So.
Yeah, I wonder how he stopped. Does someone just stop him?
Well, I think it was more like until literally his feet bleed and he can't physically walk anymore. Not like breaking his whole legs or anything, but
so he would come out of that state in a lot of pain.
Yeah, exactly, and then he eventually would stop.
I do actually really like that line when she said that. Like, I was like, oh, that's pretty clever. Sadistic, but very clever.
It's a nice little bit of comeuppance for him, even though we know he then goes on to X-Men 2 and dies there. Yeah.
But I think that was actually, that one particular moment was actually quite a clever way to write him out of the film.
Yeah.
In a satisfying way.
Yeah.
I wish there was more of that in this film. Like, but I don't know, whatever. Wade Wilson, aka Weapon 11. So obviously this is Deadpool, right? I think
so. It was played by Ryan Reynolds, and yeah.
I'm 90 because he obviously nothing else in this list jumps out as it would be Deadpool. I'm pretty sure that's the one, Weapon 11.
Yeah.
So what? So I'm just thinking. When Deadpool was about to come out, were people like a bit scared because it's like, oh, it's that character from Origins that was that character from Origins?
Well, yeah, I think I don't know.
And on top of that, in 2 years after this, Ryan Reynolds played Green Lantern, and that was shite.
He did not have a good. He did not have a good couple years from this point.
Yeah.
Until he finally got the role and the great film that he needed. And it's so I don't know what the expectation was. I don't know if it was revealed that he would be in the film and that Deadpool would be in the film. I know the reaction was that it's awful. I just don't know how people were expecting it. But it's definitely really, really bad because it's even worse because at the beginning of the film, Ryan Reynolds is definitely like, when he's introduced, probably the best actor and character in the room.
He has an unbelievable charisma. And then as soon as he becomes Weapon 11, he's just a
Yeah.
fucking brute, and that's
Yeah,
it.
he's in the second scene in the film, or like when like all the other guys are introduced. Then he doesn't show up until the very end. So it's a shame he only gets one scene to sort of show off that he can be a really good Wade Wilson.
Mm.
And it's all literally stitched together into this monstrosity of a like weaponized villain.
Yeah.
It's like so awful.
It was like it reminded me of like General Grievous, like but
Oh yeah.
even worse because
Oh, way worse.
At least General Grievous like had a character with like a voice and like a
And
sense
he
of
was
humor.
consistent.
Yeah, he was
And
consistent,
consistent.
and the obviously because Reynolds was held back by what happened to him later in the film, but like yeah, I remember thinking like this is such a thrown in character.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, when I saw him, I was like, is that Ryan Reynolds? I didn't realize like Deadpool was even in this film. I was like, what the fuck? It's Deadpool.
I didn't know until a couple of years ago after Deadpool 1 had come out.
Right. Yeah. See, I didn't know until I watched it. I was like, what the fuck? It's Deadpool. What's he doing here? And then I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit. And then
Deadpool's
yeah, and then but I'm aware of like what Deadpool is like in the actual film, and then when I saw Weapon 11 or whatever, I was a bit like, this is like not good.
no, it's very bad. It's very awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does not look like Deadpool at all. Like there's the only like comparison you can make is when his eyes, like his outside of his eyes, go black to make
Mm.
like the sort of shape of his eye on his mask. But then that's it. That's the only comparison you can make.
I feel like I reckon maybe like you could. Oh Jesus Christ! Oh, my friend's computer's got like a virus on it. It keeps on sending you ads like, "Oh, claim your $50 million prize" or something like that.
Jeez.
Anyway, but what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I feel like Deadpool, you could like compare to like the Seventh Doctor, where like in the Seventh Doctor's first season, he's absolutely just shite. He's just a bad character, and just like
Yeah.
Deadpool in this film. But then once they actually gave him a proper character, it's like, oh, what's going on here? I feel like when I think about Deadpool as a character, like I'm thinking maybe it's just when it actually gets to Deadpool, they actually do something with him that's not just, hey, this is the boss fight.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, I like to make weird comparisons on this channel. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone has ever compared Deadpool to the Seventh Doctor.
No.
I think on one of the other streams, I compared Power of the Daleks to Black Panther, and it's because I think Anthony said he like, despite the graphical limitations, he really enjoyed Black Panther, and I said the same thing about Power of the Daleks animation.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's irrelevant. But yeah, I was thoroughly disappointed by Weapon 11. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah. It's not good. It is literally like, it looks like an abomination. It looks terrible. Just end off. The design is bad. The sort of adaptation of what the character is awful. It's also not that interesting. It's just a bunch of a collection of mutant powers. So
Yep.
it's a shame because Ryan Reynolds is really good.
Yeah, but he was in a couple of really bad films around this time.
Yeah, definitely.
Kayla Silverfox. I believe this was Logan's partner, right?
Yes, I assume so.
Yeah. So she lied to him, and but then she's like, "Oh, but I love you anyway."
Yeah, like she originally got with him because Ryder had her sister, but did eventually develop feelings for Logan, which they say at the end of the film. And I sort of thought that when it was introduced, like, oh, well, she's not dead. At first, I thought it was going to be Mystique,
Mm,
At first, I thought it was going to be revealed after Logan would leave that it's actually Mystique to like sort of mess up with his mind.
mm.
So
No, the only problem with that is that in X-Men 1 that he hadn't ever met Mystique, so
yeah,
it would the only way that would work is if it was her, but it was without him seeing her.
yeah,
But what I was gonna say is like it's funny that David Benioff wrote this film because there's a character in Game of Thrones that has a very similar story to her in this called Jorah Mormont, who is told by the king to kill Daenerys, but then along the way he falls in love with her, and then she finds out that he was told to kill her, and she banishes him, but he's still in love with her. And it's like Kayla Silverfox reminded me of Jorah Mormont in this film, where it's like she was, lying to Logan, but then along the way she actually did get feelings for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, I bought their romance. I did. But the thing is, like, when you like do a time jump of 6 years, because that was the time jump between him and leaving and then going back into what we would see in the film, it's very much saying like, oh, okay, we've just got to now buy into him being madly in love with this person that we assume she has been dating him for like years now. So it's a very like,
there was that really weird scene with like where he was going to like into the truck with those other guys.
yeah,
And then like she's like, hey, gotta come in for a kiss.
yeah. It's that sort of like, it's just a sort of that like banterish kind of thing.
Yeah.
I see it quite a lot myself, and it is quite funny.
Mm.
So I think I quite like that because that was quite a relatable like sort of little moment, I would say.
I actually think that like contrast to Liev Schreiber, I actually think that the actress had good chemistry with Hugh Jackman. But I think that her highlights in the film come all before the twist. Because I think as a romantic interest, she was actually very, very good. It's just once that the twist happens and she becomes part of the drama, it goes a bit like, oh, I don't know. But then obviously she gets that great line at the end of the film where she makes him walk.
Yeah.
But where does she dies, right, at the end?
Yeah, she dies, and then Logan doesn't recognize her.
Yeah. So there is a sort of pointlessness to it all because she dies and he forgets. It's
the only way that it doesn't become pointless if Logan will remember at some point, but I'm not confident on that.
It's like when the Doctor remembers Clara.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. It's just like at one point it doesn't even matter, and then one point he's like, oh, but even when he remembers, it still doesn't matter because we're transitioning into a new Doctor with new storylines, so it still doesn't matter.
It doesn't explain how he remembers because when he actually did see her, like what the fuck?
You can only assume that the memory people with the kiss from Bill implanted memories into his head. So
it's such bullshit.
Like, you can't even argue saying, oh, well, it does matter now because the Doctor remembers. Like, yeah, but this Doctor is regenerating, meaning in terms of narrative sense, we're going into a new era, so it still doesn't matter. So you can't even argue.
I just feel like that episode shouldn't have happened. Like, I wish the Doctor Falls was the.
I mean, that was the original plan, but Chris Chibnall doesn't like doing Christmas specials
for some reason.
I don't know why. How good would have The Woman Who Fell to Earth been if it was on Christmas Day, and they did that story on Christmas? It would have been, I think, pretty decent.
And imagine like the cliffhanger that it ended on, and you had to wait like months for the ghost.
Yeah, that would have been great. I think the episode would have really benefited.
You have to wait for months for the Ghost Monument, which shifts the entire series back, which means that Resolution's the finale and not the Battle of Fuck Off.
Yeah. And then you go, boom, just changing one thing fixes the entire series not completely fix it.
And you know what? I would have done? And you know how I was talking before about, I think it wasn't on a stream, but I told you about how I would rearrange some of the series, which is a video I could eventually do if I want. But like with Series 11, rearranging it, obviously you could do that. But another thing that I would do is make the Ghost Monument longer, because then it's this big journey to get to the TARDIS.
We learn
And-
more about the
and
characters as we go on.
cut out the fucking Saranga bullshit.
Oh yeah, cut that.
And
please.
and you could cut out arachnids and the fuck off for I don't know, make Demons of the Punjab bigger, because like make the partition of India feel grand. Have the team split up, go to the different countries, and make it this big historical.
Yeah, like if you cut out arachnids and you cut out Saranga Conundrum, then you can make 2 different stories, 2-parters, and there you go.
I would say
if anything, you just make the series average at best, and not.
I would say make Ghost Monument and Demons longer, because I think those are the 2 that I reckon would benefit from being longer.
Yeah.
And then I would also like, if I had a choice, I would either shift Battle to earlier, or I would just cut it out completely, and make it like it takes you away in Resolution, the climax.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be much stronger.
Because I think those would have been the perfect episodes to cap it off.
Yeah.
I think.
And also like having the Grace thing lead right into Ryan's dad would make sense.
It would be good, because then
not just fucking like, because you go from like the whole thing at the end of it takes you away with like the scene at the very end where it's reflecting on Grace, going straight into the finale where Graham's like, oh yeah, I'll just kill him.
Yeah.
Just completely out of character.
Yeah.
But it's just so that Chibnall's like, oh, we can have a plot twist, and then they'll do this stupid fist bump thing that I'm fucking...
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it would have been better, like, at that point, like, it would have been better if they had Bao before it takes you away, so then that can explain, like, him wanting to kill Tim Short, but then still... after that, still not totally over the death of Grace itself. And that could have been the combination of her granddad. And then that goes into Resolution. So it's a perfect like transition. There, we've just made Series 11 better with just changing 1 episode into Christmas.
Yep. And cut out 2 of the, 2 to 3 of the worst, and make the better ones longer. Or at least make one that's average into one that could actually be interesting. But no, that's not what we got, because no 2-parters, right? Because the audience won't watch if it's 2-parters, even though that's literally what every other TV show in the whole world does. Because like every show of the
best stories are 2-parters.
I'm pretty sure like every single show on Netflix except for Black Mirror is serialized. Every single show. Every single fucking show.
Anyway.
Bastards. Anyway, back to X-Men. A different kind of shit. Let's move on from Kayla Silverfox. Although I will say, the power is cool, and the actress is attractive. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Chris Bradley. I can't remember who that was.
I can't remember either.
I'll look up. Chris Chibnall, maybe. Oh dear. Oh, I just accidentally typed in Chris Chibnall. God. Oh dear. Oh no, it's just come up with like some random Chris Bradley. I don't know who that is. Chris Bradley, X-Men. Oh, that's the guy from Lost.
Oh, okay. Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, he died.
Yeah, he died. I was like, oh, he's in this film, and then he dies in a couple of minutes. So no, it doesn't really matter.
He had like a carnival, didn't he? And he's like, oh, I can turn on lights without my.
I think that was a nice little moment, because you see the difference between like people. You have that couple where the guy is like, oh, you're weird, and then you have the girl who was like, oh, you're quite interesting. That's quite nice. So that's a nice little moment, but then he dies. Yeah. Yep. I'm not afraid of dying.
It's classic David Benioff right there. Fucking, it's like, oh yeah, we'll just introduce this really interesting character and then kill them straight away.
Yeah.
Like one of my there's this character from season 6 of Game of Thrones that's honestly like, I don't know how they did it, but the actor and the writing for it, within like 2 or 3 scenes, I'm fully invested in this character, and he has these very powerful moments with the Hound, in this sort of, it's sort of like a church group, and it's like, holy fucking shit, this guy is not from the books. He's just some random character that these guys have come up with. The actor is brilliant, and it's just this awesome thing. And then what do you know? Within that episode, he's dead. And in the rest of the season, the Hound's just doing nothing. It's like, oh, fuck. Like, potential. There's so much potential. Oh, why do they have to do this? Why?
Why?
Oh, dear. So I don't get, like, what's so good about killing characters without, like, actually doing anything with them. It just feels useless. Like, the way that they do it in this film, it's just like, oh, we need to make... It's like an X-Men 3, like when they have to make Jean Grey powerful. They're like, oh, we'll just have her kill characters, we'll have her kill Scott, we'll have her kill Professor X.
Professor X, yeah.
Yeah. So after Chris Bradley, we had Remy LeBeau, aka Gambit.
I was surprised to see him because I didn't think Gambit was in any of these films.
Gambit, X-Men. Trying to remind myself who that is. In X-Men Origins.
He's the one that can do the card tricky things.
Oh yeah, the card trick thing. Yeah, that's right. It was kind of cool, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel like he, in the cartoons, I remember him being more of a presence in the X-Men. So I think it's the thing like that everyone was upset that Gambit never was really in these films, and then I saw him here and I was like, oh, he is in the film, but it's in this.
I just found out a bit of trivia from Google Images. Apparently, the original casting choice for Gambit was Chris Hemsworth.
Oh wow.
Maybe the guy who actually played him has more of the look.
I would agree, yeah.
But yeah, he didn't really do much in the film, did he? Did he? I can't remember.
Yeah.
After Gambit, we had John Wraith, who I believe was that will.i.am's character, or
I'd assume so. He's the one that can teleport.
I feel like I can't think of a yeah. It is that character.
It's very hard to remember all these guys' names.
Now I can't think of a specific example, but I feel like this is a character that's gonna that I swear that there would be plot holes surrounding this character because he can teleport. There has to be. It's so like, why wouldn't he do this? Why wouldn't he do this?
Is it the same thing as like Nightcrawler, where he can only teleport where he can see?
Maybe.
It's it's very odd. He seems like, why is he there on the mission? He seems kind of pointless.
Because having will.i.am in this film in 2009 when the Black Eyed Peas album,
yeah, he could literally just teleport in, take the thing, and teleport out.
I'm pretty sure this is the same year that The End came out, which was like, I got a feeling. Fucking that fucking song would not stop playing on the radio and still hasn't stopped. 10 years after it came out, it still plays at my KFC when I work there every fucking day. And it stopped playing. I got a feeling. Absolute drivel. But what were you saying?
I was just saying, like, the mission at the beginning of the film was to get information about where the antimantium was, but then why is will.i.am there? Why is he there? A guy who can teleport seems kind of useless when all you want is just information. Yeah, and you take control anyway. So why is he there?
Oh, because it's cool.
will.i.am. We need will.i.am.
Yeah, he's a cool. He's a famous pop star, and the character is cool. Great. After that, we had Fred Dukes, aka Blob.
This was the biggest turn. He was like.
I mean, he was big, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, but it was such a dramatic turn to like non-serious I've seen in a while. It took me
Hmm.
right out of the film, to be
Yeah.
quite honest. It was just like they played it for comedy in a film that's been super serious up until this point.
Yeah.
While it's had jokes in it, it hasn't like completely overtaken the story, and this felt like this scene completely derailed the seriousness of it.
Yeah. It wasn't. Didn't this like the scene with him like take place right after the barn shooting? I'm pretty sure.
I think so, yeah.
But yeah, Blob was just. Ooh, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
he is obviously the comedic relief for the two scenes he's in, so
Yeah. I mean the
but it
prosthetics.
derails the film.
It's prosthetics, right? Surely it's prosthetics. It's
It
not real.
looked no, it looked CGI to
Okay.
me.
Well, it's certainly grotesque. I'll give it that.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gross.
Yeah. Um. But yeah, I just didn't. It didn't feel like it belonged. It was very weird.
Oh, yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
you compare that to like a Sam Raimi film where it jumps between dramatic and comedic, and it's so well
Because
done.
he can transition to it very well and
Mm.
not feel like it's jarring.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't really care, to be honest. It was just like, oh, this character exists so that Logan knows where to go. This film not only does it have the whole like other characters die, but it also has the whole thing of like, oh yes, we need to create a character so that Logan knows where to go next. Almost like a fucking Dungeons and Dragons like game or something. It was so convenient.
Mm.
How literally like characters were created just for one scene to conveniently tell Logan where he needs to go next. Like a trail of
Yeah.
like I don't know lollies or something, chocolates. Um. After that, we have Agent Zero. Agent Zero. Who was that again? I'm forgetting every one of these bloody.
Oh, was that the guy with the guns at the beginning of the film? He did like the trick shot kind of
The Asian
things.
guy. I
Yes, the
think.
Asian character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like it's one of those like Warriors 3 cases where it's like, oh yeah, it's the guy with the guns.
Yeah. I don't know.
Uh,
He was just sort of there for another threat, and then he just
yeah.
dies in an explosion. And
Um.
then Hugh Jackman walks away in a really bad green screen fire.
Yeah. And then we have yet another opportunity to actually do something with Scott Summers, aka Cyclops.
No,
And no, he just laser.
I'm there. I'm here. And they try. It's basically what they're trying to do is be like, just Logan and Scott's storylines intertwined forever, and it's like, oh, okay,
But they don't give him any character.
no. He's just sort of like, hey, you recognize that guy? Remember him from the original trilogy that we did nothing with? And then he runs off with badly CGI Professor X.
Yeah. It was probably meant to be like an X-Men origin Cyclops, but because this film was
I
shite,
assume
like
so. Yeah,
um which is a shame because he's the one character that needed
that
it.
needed it. Yeah,
Yeah, and I will say the Professor X CGI in this film was
that whole
absolutely
scene,
garbage.
that whole
It
scene
looked
was awful.
horrible.
Because when they run, there's no shadows. There's a whole video. If anyone's watched, I think it's called the Corridor Crew. They do like looking at bad CGI in Marvel films. I think one of them is like they look at that scene and there's so much wrong with it.
Yeah,
It
it's
looks
like when I
awful.
was watching, I was like, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I feel like this in terms of because obviously you know we've covered bad CGI before. You look at Hulk 2003, which has a bad design for Hulk, which looks very cartoonish.
Mhm.
But when I think about that, there is actually, by comparison, a sort of sense of you at least know what's happening.
Yeah.
You see this really silly looking Shrek Hulk doing these weird things, but at the very least, it's actually distinct and the background looks natural. Whereas in this scene at the end of X-Men Origins, it's so bad that my brain like can't figure out what's what. And then I see fucking CGI Professor X come on. I'm like, is this like a cutscene from a video game?
That's what it looks like.
It was
That's what it really
terrible. Looks like. It was terrible. Jesus.
Yeah.
Really bad. Yeah. Like I honestly like I would have just cut the scene out.
I would have cut it and just assumed that they escaped.
But like they're just like, oh no, we have to have Professor X in it. So it explains that Scott goes to school, even though we know
even though we don't need it.
Yeah, even though we actually know what happens, we don't need to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Rogue One CGI, but in 2009.
It would be like if at the end of this film we see Logan go into that like sort of bar cage fight kind of thing. That's like, oh, that's how we got there. It's like, I mean, we don't need it. It'd be like that. That's what it's like. That's
yeah,
what
but
it would
like,
be like.
but like, and I was going to compare to Rogue One. The difference being in Rogue One, it's actually interesting.
Yeah, because the way they do it.
Yeah.
The way that they do it is like it literally is seconds before like New Hope. That's the interesting part about it.
Yeah, and the actual plans that the plot revolves around carries you through it. Mm-hmm. It takes you on this journey to where it gets at the start of A New Hope.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, unlike the horrible Professor X cameo in this film, you get like one of the best Star Wars scenes with Darth Vader's appearance.
Yep, and it's fucking awesome.
It's awesome.
It's probably the best moment from Disney Star Wars.
Yep, it is. It absolutely is. I can't.
Oh yeah, I would argue that Rogue One is probably the least problematic Disney Star Wars film.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Force Awakens, and I do like subjectively Last Jedi, but Rogue One, I would say, is the least problematic.
Yeah, I would say the only issue with Rogue One is the fact that it's not as important or necessary as the others. But in terms of its execution of what it's trying to do, it does very well on almost every level.
I would say so.
Whereas the other films, like compare that to Force Awakens, which has a much bigger purpose but has more problems.
And it's so safe. It's
has
so
more
safe,
problems.
But also loads of problems. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's not get onto that. We'll discuss Disney Star Wars when the time comes. Look, those videos are going to be interesting. Anyway, but yes, let's move on from that horrible scene in X-Men because I hated it. It was just disgusting.
Yeah.
Any other characters we want to discuss?
Who else is there? I'm trying to remember. You've got obviously the woman's sister who goes into like sort of like Colossus sort of powers, but it looks kind of different. Who else?
There's Logan's mum.
Oh yeah. What are you? Sorry.
What are you, coward or killer?
You've got the guy that Ryder kills from the military, who's about to shut him down, and you're like, "Oh, Ryder's crazy." Like, yeah, cool.
He's crazy, guys.
Yeah, he's a bad guy. He likes being bad because it makes him happy.
That's another David Benioff thing. Fucking Euron Greyjoy pirate banter. I'm going to fuck Cersei.
I like being bad. It makes me happy.
How do I compare to the Fat King? I killed Jaime Lannister. Fucking Game of Thrones season 8 was terrible. Worse than Doctor Who Series 11.
Oh, yeah. Because at least it doesn't fuck with its characters. At least they're consistently, like, boring.
Yeah.
So you have nothing to be upset about.
I'd rather watch Game of Thrones Season 8, though. It's more entertaining. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, you can laugh at the fool.
but if I'm to say what is worse, like what is more disappointing, it's fucking
Yeah.
douchebag and dickheads fucking pay off to 8 years of build up of one of the greatest stories ever told. Really angry.
Yeah, we kind of just forgot to write a good show.
Oh yeah, the very last episode of the most famous TV show of the last 10 years. Oh yeah, most of it is just walking around doing nothing.
Oh, we just sort of thought that we could just burn it all down. I'm gonna burn it all.
We'll burn away. What was Stanley's cameo again? I can't remember.
Don't think there is one.
I'm pretty sure there was, but I don't remember what it
I
was.
can't. I couldn't remember it at all. There was.
Stanley Origins.
Unless there was a post-credit scene, because I remember that there was for Deadpool.
Oh yeah, no, there was for that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I didn't watch, but I watched it on a clip just not long ago.
Where is it? Secret cameo. I think I'm looking at the wrong one.
I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't one because I don't remember it.
Yeah,
But to be fair, I missed the one from. To be fair, I missed the one from X-Men 1.
Yeah, well, that one was. He was just looking at the camera for a bit. That was just. Hang on, I've got a picture of the one from X-Men 1 here. I'll send it to you.
I remember looking back on it, but I don't remember the one from this film if there is one.
Oh right,
so there never seemed to be an opportunity to show him at any point.
Wait, hang on. You're saying you have seen the one from X-Men 1?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
when I realized there was, I looked back on it.
Oh okay, yeah, okay. But yes, characters. That's about it, really. Too many deaths. Oh, there was the old man and the old woman from the barn.
Yeah, which I think was nice, but they get killed off.
Yep.
Which I guess in a sense is kind of brutal and kind of shocking. So fair play. But then we go into the blob straight after. So
the problem is that I actually cared about them.
Mm-hmm.
And then because they got killed, the next 40 minutes, I was just like, oh fuck.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the fact that they died. It's just the fact that they get pulled out the film right when things get good.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that they can be like, oh yes,
we killed old people.
Yeah, subvert your expectations. Woohoo!
God, with that, that was even back in 2009.
Yeah. But whatever. Who needs an Iron Throne? The plot was the origin of Wolverine, and it was he gets the adamantium and then forgets, right?
Yeah, the plot is that we see his journey in the beginning of the opening credits. He then gets an opportunity to be part of a team, but a bad team. He then runs away, but then Ryder's like, you know what? I need his powers for this project I'm doing. Let's trick him into giving a metal skeleton, and then it all goes awry.
Yep. You know what though? It does kind of make sense that the team thing didn't work, because then it makes sense later on in X-Men 1 why he wouldn't want to be part of a team, because the last time I did this, it was shit. Subconsciously.
Yeah, subconsciously. He's like, I don't like teams. I'm a loner.
Yeah, I'm the lone wolf. But yeah, no, it was just whatever.
It was a plot that could have been great, but it was poorly executed.
Yep. Which comes down to, which we're going to move on to next, is the writing by dickhead David Benioff and a man called Skip Woods. The name Skip Woods makes me think that he wrote the Blob scenes. Just, I don't know if that's me being like, oh, he's got a name that sounds like he's from the country, but whatever. Skip
He
Woods.
probably skipped important parts of the story to make it good.
Ha 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 ha.
And they were in the woods at the beginning of the film.
Oh yeah, well there you go. So yes, David Benioff, one of the writers of Game of Thrones, did films such as Troy, which apparently is another shit film.
I've never heard of it.
And others, and him and D.B. Weiss are going to get a Star Wars trilogy, apparently.
Yeah.
And there's rumors that it's going to be like the Old Republic, but like, why would you give the guy who did a bad X-Men prequel to do another bad Star Wars prequel?
I'd rather Rian Johnson do it because it could at least be stylized.
Well, I don't know. I feel like
make someone else write it and have Rian Johnson direct it and don't touch the script and it will be actually good.
Yeah, I'll give you that. It will be Rian Johnson's direction will be irritating, but very stylish and very polished.
Yes.
But if he doesn't touch the script, at the very least, it won't be something that might ruin the whole franchise because it's a prequel, and you'll be like, oh, actually, Anakin did have a father, and he was Mace Windu or something. I don't. And then you get old ass Samuel L. Jackson to wear the same thing he had in Captain Marvel, and then oh dear, Matt Smith as Palpatine, great.
That will be interesting to see in Rise of Skywalker. Matt Smith.
Matt Smith's the same age as Jodie Whittaker now. Like the same age. It's weird. Yeah. Like he's in his mid-30s. It's very odd. And like they're the same age that Tennant was when he started. Like when he first played it. It's strange, really, to think about it like that. Because in Series 2, Tennant looks very young, but he's like 35 or 36.
Matt Smith now looks a bit old, but quite not old, but he looks very older than when you first see him in 2010.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm not a knowledgeable person on their personal lives, but I've heard that him and like there's like a little friend group that him and like a bunch of other actors have. I think Billy Piper's in it. Like love to take drugs. So there you go. It's a feasible theory, but it would not surprise me in the least. Whereas David Tennant just has cocaine. And Christopher Eccleston goes around swearing at people for littering in a park.
Is that what that was about? I know that's what something like that happened. I can't remember.
I hope this world takes a shit on you. That's actually what it was. He put a video post on his social media at a park, and he's like saying, "Come down to this park. It's so wonderful, but I look at the grass and there's shit all over it. To all those people who put that there, I hope this world shits on you." And now it's a meme. Gotta love him, eh? He's just so good at being pissed off.
It's actually funny. I was going to say earlier, but earlier today I was driving, and on the radio they had said that the vote some sort of award, but voted as the most important TV moment in history was the introduction of the Daleks in the original TV, like when it first broadcasted, and then they did an audio clip of the Daleks' first scene with Christopher Eccleston, and I grinned from ear to ear because that was very nice to hear on the radio.
But did they realize that wasn't the same story?
They did, but I think it was more accessible to use that because it's the Daleks saying exterminate and him saying let me out.
Well, I mean, because the scene where they first appear in the Daleks is a bit like you have to be watching it to understand it.
There's no way you could put that on radio
because it is more mystery around it, like because the doctor just he's like, Susan, watch out.
Yeah. But yeah,
we have produced a drug. It will infiltrate your body.
So yeah, I think they used the right clip of using the Dalek episode.
You would make a good Dalek. But yes, going back to X-Men because we've tangented like 50 times now. David Benioff writes very engaging scripts, but they are full of issues. They are so full of issues, and I think it's because he has this obsession with making surprises and very reckless decisions, I would say. He's not quite as like when because someone might see that like hear me say that and think that I'm comparing him to like a Ryan Johnson. It's not quite as like smug as Ryan Johnson. I feel like with some Ryan Johnson, he with Ryan Johnson's writing, it's very much like this is my idea and this is what we're doing and I'm going all the way with it. Whereas with David Benioff, I feel like it's more just it's not him being self-aware of his writing. It's more just like this is how he operates, but he doesn't realize that this is going to be polarizing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? It's not smug. It's just a little bit like it's as if he's not fully aware of the flaws in his writing because he wins fucking so many awards that he's like, oh, that must mean I'm really good.
He thinks character flaws are when they literally just forget something.
Or when they die.
That's a plot hole or a plot convenience.
Yeah. Or he thinks a character flaw is when they die.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, oh, we need bad things to happen to them, therefore that will create depth. No, you need to actually do something with that. You don't just put down tent poles and be like, oh, yeah, that's the story. We'll let the fucking action scenes do the rest for us. I don't know what Skip Woods did. I would just presume it's probably the blob scenes. That's my guess, because that's the part of the film that's minor and feels like it's completely different.
Yeah.
Skip has... Oh, no, actually, maybe not. We'll see, but maybe not. Skip has written Die Hard sequels. He wrote Hitman, and he wrote the A-Team revival film. Yeah, not good.
No.
Direction was by a man called Gavin Hood. Gavin Hood has won an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film with Tsotsi, I think it's called.
Okay, fair enough.
But you know that Ang Lee won an Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, so... I mean, the direction, like we said, it was... The storytelling in it was fine. It was more just the effects were off.
Oh, yeah.
This
is definitely the effects in this film are the worst so far, I would say.
Yeah. I think there were moments where the direction annoyed me, but I can't remember. I didn't write it down.
I didn't find it too impressive. I found it serviceable at best.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with it is how it changed throughout the film.
Yeah.
Like, whenever it was with Blob and the Will.i.am character, it felt like a country TV show.
Yeah.
And then you get like the Tower Weapon 11 action scene, and it's all like, oh, this is a big boom. I thought the way the film looked at the very end of the film was not very good.
It looked so incredibly overdone with effects.
Yeah.
Like, it was very clear.
Yeah. Like, all the atmosphere went away for some reason. It was odd.
Yeah.
It was too bleached. But I suppose the direction did capture the whole feel of, oh, this is the countryside, but that's probably literally because they filmed in the countryside.
Yeah.
The music was done by a man called Harry Gregson Williams. Harry Gregson Williams has done the scores for a lot. He did the score for Ants, Chicken Run, Spy Kids, Shrek, Sinbad, The Criminals of Narnia, Flushed Away, The Forbidden Kingdom, Prince of Persia, Cowboys vs. Aliens, Prometheus, Total Recall, Mr. Pip, The Martian, and the Metal Gear Solid video games. That's a lot.
That's a very like very odd list.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before on any videos. I may have. But Mr. Pip is a film with Hugh Laurie in it. And there's a scene towards the end of the film that was filmed at my college that I went to, my high school. When I was in year 9, which I'm not sure what that is in the UK, but that's like I was 13 turning 14. It's like my first year of high school. And some of my friends were in it because they were in the classroom that the character was in. It's very weird how they chose our school because like the whole point of it was like, oh, we need to show her going to Australia, and I was like, oh, but we're not Australia.
That's odd. That's an odd choice. Why not just go to one in Australia?
Yeah, maybe they wanted somewhere with cooler temperature. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, Mr. Pip is a very weird film. But yeah, the music. Overall, the X-Men film music hasn't been particularly interesting.
I can't remember a single track.
Again, like
very memorable.
Except for maybe the title sequence.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'd be interested to see like if we get to a film in this series that does have a very memorable soundtrack because so far they haven't really been that distinct.
Yeah.
Considering that he's done all those other films too, it's a bit of a letdown. Like Chronicles of Narnia, Sinbad, Spy Kids. Those are films with very distinct soundtracks.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything else about the writing, direction, or music?
It was quite average at best and had a lot of problems.
Yeah, I think
just all around.
I found the direction around some of the actors was poor in terms of just the way that they were forced into each other, like with dialogue, was very odd. I found, especially with the child actors at the start, was appalling.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like I don't know if this might sound odd, but the very start of the film to me felt jarring because the way it looked and the way it felt, like it made me think that like it should have been British for some reason. Like
Yeah.
I would have been able to take it more seriously, but because
I think the aesthetic of it was quite
Yeah.
of like British
yeah.
film and TV of olden time. I would say.
Like,
I think.
well, even something like Pirates of the Caribbean or, like that kind of atmosphere with like the British part of it. Or like something like The Unquiet Dead or whatever. It had that feel to it. But then you have these corny American actors in it, and it just felt odd. I was like, these guys do not feel like they're from this time. Are we ready to move on to the trivia?
Yeah. Yes.
IMDb X-Men Origins Wolverine 2009. Wow, it's got 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb. That's actually higher than I thought it would be. But the Metascore is 40. Where is the trivia? Here it is. Okay. Liev Schreiber was given a muscle suit to wear for his role, similar to what Vinnie Jones as Juggernaut had in X-Men Last Stand, to make his physique look comparable to Hugh Jackman's 220-pound figure. The suit made Schreiber feel humiliated as he requested a chance to gain real muscle. He trained for 3 months while filming Defiance in Lithuania and continued to train alongside Jackman during filming. Jackman also made Schreiber add a great deal of protein to his diet, which Schreiber called the genocide of chickens. In the end, Schreiber gained 40 pounds and had to buy several new suits due to his back gaining several inches in width. I can't fit into my favorite suit now, but I felt like I owed it to the genre to be big. Interesting. Well, at least he did a better job than Topher Grace did.
Yeah.
In the flashback to Africa, a young black girl with white hair can be seen. This is young Storm. But the scene was removed from the final cut, but it appears as a deleted scene on the DVD. So it's like extended edition trivia. It's like the scene in Incredible Hulk where he goes to the North Pole and like eats a grenade or some bullshit. Like, what?
And sees Captain's shield.
Yeah. In this film, Logan fights in the American Civil War, World War One, World War Two, and the Vietnam War. In the comics, he participated in World War One and Two, even teaming up with Captain America in the latter. Yeah, that would have been interesting. If this was done in the MCU, like having him alongside Captain America would have been weird.
It would have been a clash of styles, I think.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman recommended Liev Schreiber for the role of Sabretooth. Describing him as having the necessary competitive streak to portray Sabretooth. During filming, they dared each other to perform more and more of their own stunts. Hugh Jackman expressed disappointment over this film, admitting it fell short of his expectations and did not get to do the character of Wolverine justice. Subsequently, he and the rest of the crew sought to do a better job with the Wolverine, which we'll be reviewing later down the line. Wow. And yeah, I believe Hugh Jackman actually worked behind the scenes on this film quite a bit. He was like one of the producers, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So he was actually disappointed. A Deadpool film had been in the works since 2004, with David S. Goyer intended to direct, starring Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and Reynolds had always dreamed of playing Deadpool, and when he heard the character was given a place in the script, he immediately approached the filmmakers for the role. So, interestingly, it took another 7 years for Deadpool to come out after this. This movie takes place in 1845, 1860s, 1910s, 1944, 1973, and 1979. But the thing is, it doesn't really feel like it, though.
Yeah, it just feels like it all just happens.
Yeah. The passage of time does not feel that monumental.
Like, at first, I didn't realize 6 years had passed because I think I missed the text.
Yeah.
So, like, I assumed that years had passed.
Whereas you compare that to something like First Avenger or Endgame, when the time passes, it's this huge thing. It's like
they make a big deal of it.
Yeah. When Deadpool first uses Scott Summers' optic blast, the skin around his eyes burns in a red-shaded diamond pattern. Deadpool's mask in the comics had a diamond pattern of black around the eyes.
Yeah, and then that's it. And then the rest is shit.
Many comic book fans were unhappy with the way Deadpool was treated in this movie, including Ryan Reynolds himself.
I wouldn't have guessed.
In the rear window of the Hudson's truck is a sticker reading "Not all wonder are lost," paraphrasing Aragorn's motto from The Lord of the Rings. Why? Why? Because it's fucking Magneto's not even in this film. What are you doing? Right. That is one thing that was really missing from this film was Magneto. Because that was something that was carrying the other three.
A very charismatic figure, yeah.
Yes. We only had one in this film as opposed to three. Although I would also argue Rebecca Romijn as Mystique is also a very charismatic figure in those films as
Yeah.
well. Oh, what a shame. She was so pretty. Um, um, Hugh Jackman underwent a high-intensity weight training regimen to improve his physique for the role. He altered the program to shock his body into change and also performed cardiovascular workouts. So I suppose he was doing this to make him look like younger
Yeah.
and more sort of like lean, I suppose.
Yeah.
Jackman noted no digital touches were applied to his physique in a shot of him raising the tank within which Wolverine had his bones infused with adamantium. Interesting. Originally, Deadpool was only going to be a cameo, but the role grew after Ryan Reynolds was cast. I feel like that may have been a mistake. Should have just been a cameo. He shouldn't have even been in the film, honestly.
No, he shouldn't have.
Every Friday throughout production, Hugh Jackman gave out lottery tickets to everyone on set. Unfortunately, no one won.
Oh, well.
Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes in the Blade trilogy are the only two actors with roles in Marvel Comics movie adaptations to not have gone through an audition prior to signing. That's interesting. You've seen Robert Downey's audition for Tony Stark, right?
I might have. I can't remember.
I saw it, and it was fucking brilliant. Like it's literally the exact same as it is on screen, which is rare for an audition. Like he's just, and it's like an improvised scene as well, and he's completely in the moment. And like the actress that he's against, she's making mistakes, and he's just no sweat. Imagine if tapes got filmed of J.K. Simmons' audition as J. Jonah Jameson.
That'd be great.
That would be like the gold right there. To see what like his first go at it was. Like if he was like perfect from the first time he ever tried it. Probably. Will.i.am was a fan of the X-Men franchise, who identified Nightcrawler as his favorite character and subsequently cast to play a mutant with similar teleporting powers.
So yeah, I guess in a sense even that kind of explains his powers then. So it's a similar vein. So what I will say, I do like the details of the teleportations where you can see the skull within. I think is a cool effect. So I'll give it the film that.
Yeah. That's one of the only special effects in the film that's actually good. Hugh Jackman earned $25 million for this film. I tell you what, though, I will say one thing. It's been something I've been asking for in all these reviews. We finally got a film that focuses on him.
Yep.
Finally. For the scenes where Wolverine gets infused with adamantium, Hugh Jackman effectively spent 2 days underwater.
Wow.
Fuck, that's very bad for you. 2 days. It's like how long it takes to get a tattoo, but like underwater. The blob suit went through 6 months of modifications. So it was a suit. And had a tubing system inside to keep Kevin Durand down with ice water. Oh, to cool him down. Sorry.
Yeah.
To keep him down. David Benioff aimed for a darker and more brutal story and wrote the script with an R rating in mind. Producer Hugh Jackman did not need for an R rating. However, and the script was toned down for a safer PG-13 level.
To be honest, I don't know how much better this film would have been with an R rating. It would have been cool to see, but
I feel like the deaths may have been a bit more brutal.
yeah,
We may have
they would
actually
have been
gotten a
more
scene.
memorable.
Imagine if we actually got a scene of Stryker with like his feet bleeding.
Oh yeah, that's probably what we've seen. And Will.i.am's spine being ripped out, and we physically see the spine. Maybe.
Will.i.am accidentally punched the camera while filming a fight scene and scarred his knuckles.
Ooh.
That sucks. Not only do you scar your knuckles, but you break a very expensive lens.
Yeah.
Oh, unless he punched it on like the side or something.
Probably, I don't know.
On-screen brothers Hugh Jackman and Liev Schreiber are good friends in real life. Oh well. In one scene, a black vintage Mercedes-Benz can be spotted moving around. This was the vehicle Professor X and Lionshare used in the beginning of The Last Stand. Oh, it's the same car. You've seen the Falcon cameo in Revenge of the Sith, eh? I think I told you about this on the very first like Iron Man review when Josh was there.
Yeah, I don't think I would have remembered that. No.
Yeah, it's in the scene, like it's right before Obi-Wan's like, "Oh no, I don't deal with politics." Like, and Anakin's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna save your ass for the 10th time," or something stupid like that.
Yeah, that scene.
It's
Yeah.
right before that when it's the basically establishing shot when the car's flying or the bus is flying.
Oh yeah. I remember now.
It's on like the lower level.
I for some reason was thinking of Falcon as in the character.
No,
Yeah, no,
not
I don't know why.
Falcon. No, the
Yeah.
Millennium
The
Falcon.
Millennium Falcon. Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know why. I got Marvel in the mind.
Oh god, these bloody ads. This video will teach you how to be earning money. Oh, fuck off. Scott Adkins doubles for Deadpool at the climax because Ryan Reynolds was busy working on another movie at the time. The close-ups of Reynolds were filmed several months later where he was in between projects. So was he working on Green Lantern?
I think that was 2 years later, so probably not.
Maybe not. Maybe one of those like rom-coms he was in or something like that. The old couple Logan befriends are named Travis and Heather Hudson. These are the civilian names of Guardian and Vindicator, the leaders of Canadian superhero group Alpha Flight. Interesting. Okay. Although a link has been established between Logan and Victor in the comics, this is the first time they've actually been connected as brothers. Right, so it is fan fiction as I thought. Gavin Hood described the movie's central theme as Wolverine's inner struggle between his animalistic and human qualities. I realized that Wolverine's great appeal lies in the fact that he's someone who in some ways is filled with a great deal of self-loathing by his own nature, and he's constantly at war with himself. Tyler Main... Oh, sorry, I was just reading on. That theme. You know.
Themes.
Yep. It's one of Mauler's favorite words. What is it that makes a good film? Is themes?
In my opinion.
This is the worst film. Hugh Jackman collaborated with the writers on the script and as he wanted the movie to be more of a character piece compared to the other movies in the franchise. I'm glad he did that because that's exactly what I wanted. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way I wanted. Liev Schreiber describes Sabretooth as the most monstrous role he had ever played. Grr. Um, Gavin Hood and top Fox executive Tom Rothman reportedly had clashes over the movie's creative direction. One famous incident happened while Hood was off set, in which Rothman took it upon himself to have one of the sets repainted from Hood's original dark theme to something lighter. That's some studio shite right there. It's like Avi Arad all over again. uh, um, Originally, it was revealed that Kayla Silverfox was never in love with Logan and was just using him to get Stryker to release her sister. However, this was deemed too depressing, and additional scenes were added to express she always had feelings for him. I thought that. When I was watching the film, I was like, this looks like a reshoot, and it was.
I didn't notice that.
That makes so much sense now, because the cutting between that was really odd.
Okay, I don't think I noticed.
Yeah, so that was added in because they were like, oh, no, it's too depressing.
That's great. Keep it depressing. He's gonna forget anyway. I think that would have been better if, like, because he forgets, we're sort of like, yeah, fuck her. She was a dick.
Mm.
You know? Maybe that would have worked better.
With this film, Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart become the second and third actors to play a comic book hero in 4 consecutive films. The first was Christopher Reeve as Superman. In James Howlett's bedroom, a picture of Wolverine can be seen foreshadowing his mutation and later title. Isn't it like in Silence in the Library? The girls' like lounge has paintings of a blonde girl and a wolf.
Oh, does it actually?
Yeah, and also in Bad Wolf, the walls in the Big Brother house look like Dalek design.
Yeah. Mm. You got the bumps and all.
Yeah, the Dalekanium. A Dalek sec. Also known as Dalek hentai. I always, like, whenever I hear his voice, I always think it's Seth MacFarlane.
Huh.
Because it sounds like Seth MacFarlane, like the accent. Like when Seth MacFarlane does voices, not his actual voice, because his actual voice is quite, like, general. But when he's doing voices of, like, Peter Griffin and whatnot, it's got the same accent as Dalek Sec.
Huh.
I am a human Dalek.
Yeah. Just a lot slower. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is funny because it sounds nothing like the actor that played the guy who got sucked in by the Dalek. Because the guy who played that guy was just like, oh, I'm Italian American, I'm a bad guy. I'm from the mafia. And then you got Andrew Garfield trying to be a southerner. Well, Martha Jones. G'day. Gotta get up that tower. Oh dear. But that episode does not deserve the hate it gets. I'm telling you. It's not as bad as people say. Like, people say it's like the worst Dalek story ever made. I don't agree with that. I feel like that's very harsh. Oh, but it's all subjective, whatever. I'm just wrong, aren't I? But trust me, when we get to reviewing that, Adam is gonna be very passionately defending it. I know that. Because I know he loves that story.
Yeah.
And he's one of the only people on this earth that actually does.
Him and Shane.
Shane
and his end of the End of Time Part 2. He mentions one of his favorite stories is that the one with like the Daleks in New York. I remember.
He's so contrary. Like his favorite Davy story is Daleks in Manhattan, and his favorite series is Series 7.
His favorite villain is Missy.
Well, that
Even
one's
though,
not. That one's not too controversial.
yeah, but I can name 10 better.
Yeah, but like that one's not too controversial. There's a few people that are like that, but
Yeah, but again, I
but
think there are better villains.
yeah, no, definitely. Fucking for me, there's multiple better masters.
It's because it's the show's so American at that point that it feels like, oh, this is the real villain, someone who keeps showing up a lot. No, that's not how it works. You can have a good villain and they are only in one story.
Yeah,
And that is the case in
yeah,
a lot of stories.
yeah. I mean, you look at the Empty Child and the Vashta Nerada. They were only in one
The
story.
Family of Blood,
Exactly.
the Midnight Monster, whatever it's called.
The Midnight Entity and the Flood as well.
The Flood. Daleks are better, Cybermen are better.
The Weeping Angels, the
Weeping
Sontarans.
Angels.
Although Moffat did kind of ruin them with Strax.
That's just with Strax, to be fair.
Yeah, because beforehand it was like, we are a warrior race and we have a war with these green blobs that move on the floor. It's quite funny, but they're also like, we can also kill you, and that's what makes them scary. But then Moffat's like, oh no, potato. Fuck Series 7. What a mess. Gavin Hood had stated that the scripting process was a mess.
Oh, really?
And that the portions of the screenplay were hastily rewritten as the movie was filming. Well, probably because David Benioff's like, oh, actually, sorry, I forgot. I don't actually know how to write. I just make up a bunch of shit because I'm a fan. And the only talent I have is copy and pasting word for word one of the greatest novels ever written and making it look pretty.
But guys, the wings are behind Daenerys, making her evil.
I think Jake said his favorite part of the finale was when Jon walks up the snow and Drogon comes out the snow and it's like a Dark Souls boss. You have encountered Drogon. Carl Urban and Gerard Butler were considered for the part of Victor Creed.
They all look very similar. Like Gerard Butler especially, he looks quite similar to the actor who plays Victor.
Bryan Singer has revealed that Kayla's sister Emma is not Emma Frost. Okay. Wolverine's log cabin in the wilderness was constructed on a hillside in New Zealand. Unfortunately, because of incessant and very noisy high winds, the set had to be dismantled and rebuilt in a studio. Yeah, I found New Zealand right there. It's because of Lord of the Rings. That's what happened. This movie was delayed by weather and Hugh Jackman's commitments to the film Australia. Ah, yes. So not only was Ryan Reynolds doing some rom-com, but so was Hugh Jackman. I remember this time actually because I remember this was around the time my mum had a friend that lived here who was Australian, and they watched that film when it came out in theaters, and like they were like, "Oh, Hugh Jackman's the sexiest man in the world." But no, I don't care. Sorry. I'm not saying that he's not handsome. I just don't care.
No. Yeah.
This is the theatrical movie debut of will.i.am. Well, what a surprise. To be fair, he's not a terrible actor. He's actually okay. He's better than Vinnie Jones in X-Men 3, I can say that.
Oh, yeah, sure. He doesn't ever say like, "I can teleport, bitch."
Oh
So on that
dear.
level.
Apparently, the motorcycle jacket they gave him is the same color as his costume in the comics,
Well, that's fair
the
enough.
brown and yellow.
Mm.
I really like that scene in the barn when he gives him the jacket and he sits on the motorcycle, and like the old people are like,
Yeah,
"Remind me of my son." It's a really nice scene, and then they get shot.
yeah, and then then they die brutally, and then we go to Blob.
Like, it just feels like the kind of story that a 13-year-old would write in school. They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna make you care about this person, and I'm gonna kill them straight away."
Mm.
And then this person
Yeah.
dies, and then all this new story happens. Oh, then they die, and then in response to criticism from fans of Lynn Collins being cast as the Native American Kayla Silverfox, Colin reassured fans by claiming to have Native American ancestry. Is this just like when they cast Tilda Swinton as like that Doctor Strange character?
Mm.
I think Adam had a big issue with that. I don't know why.
Mm.
Because I really like her as an actress, but Adam's like, "Oh, why wouldn't you cast a Chinese person?" I'm like, "Oh, I suppose." But like Tilda Swinton's just very good.
Yeah,
And
she's like,
and you cannot in this day and age, you cannot do well, it's not blackface because it's Chinese, so I guess it would be yellow face. You can't do that now because that would be extremely, extremely offensive. I mean, it always was offensive, but like you just can't do that. So
no.
you have to keep her as a British woman because it would just be
Yeah.
worse. It would be worse to CGI her to make her Asian.
Oh God. Oh God, that would be terrible.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because like, I'm pretty sure the last time that Hollywood used blackface was Tropic Thunder when Robert Downey Jr. did it. And like the only reason they can get away with it is because Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in that film is brilliant. Because it's hilarious, but it is still blackface and it's fucking awkward. Especially because he like almost, I'm pretty sure he almost won an Oscar for that performance as well.
Mm.
Um, and that would have been very awkward if he had won an Oscar for a blackface performance. Like that would just be very odd. But thankfully, Heath Ledger's Joker saved the day.
Mhm.
And yeah, um, this was the first movie produced by Hugh Jackman and John Palermo's new production company called Seed Productions. Well, not a good start.
No, bad debut.
David Harbour, not sure who that is, but I'll have a look at the picture. David Harbour, do you know who that is? I think he plays, um, he's Dexter Tolliver in Suicide Squad. And he's in Hellboy 2019.
I can't recognize on the top of my head.
Okay. He revealed that he auditioned for Blob, but didn't get it, and joked that he was too fat for the part. Oh well.
Mm.
Should have been the Absorbloff. That would be way better.
Yeah.
Tastes like chicken. The final scene as a destroyed 3 Mile Island was achieved with 5 different matte paintings. Well, that makes sense because it looked shit.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Jackman was offered for the role of Tony Stark in Iron Man, but he turned it down to do this film.
That's very odd.
So for Hugh Jackman, that was he unfortunately had to get the worst of the 2 films, but thankfully because of that, we got Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. And we got Logan.
Correct. God, imagine Robert Downey Jr. as Wolverine. That would be so odd.
Yeah.
Um, Maggie Q was considered for the role of Kayla Silverfox. Who's that?
Don't know.
I feel like I should know who that is. It sounds familiar. Oh, she's Hawaiian. She's in Live Free or Die Hard. Oh well, haven't seen that film. Um, Harry Gregson Williams, the composer, used stanzas from an ancient Norse poem to underscore the theme Logan Through Time. So he did actually get quite creative with the score then. I just didn't notice it. Michelle Monaghan, who I've seen that name as well. I've seen that somewhere too. Oh, she's in a film with Robert Downey Jr. Weird. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang Pixel Gallon Gone Baby Gone Source Code. Okay. She wanted to be Kayla Silverfox. But had to turn it down to scheduling conflicts. Well, maybe she would have been good, I don't know. David Ayer wrote an earlier version of the screenplay. But of course, that got thrown out the window for David Benioff. You know, whatever he thought was going to be good. It's interesting that George R.R. Martin thought it would be a good idea to let the guy who did Troy and X-Men Origins and another guy with absolutely no experience do Game of Thrones. Like, even though it did turn out very successful, it's interesting that he's like, yeah, I trust these guys. Because X-Men Origins, Wolverine, and Troy are very, like, highly criticized.
Yeah.
But I think maybe when they said, oh, yes, we're going to do your book word for word, he's probably like, yep, we'll do that. And also HBO's like, hey, have all this money. The Fast and Furious and X-Men film franchises have often released the same installments of a franchise in the same year. X2 and Too Fast, Too Furious was 2003. The Last Stand and Tokyo Drift was 2006. This movie and Fast and Furious was 2009. First Class and Fast 5 was 2011. The Wolverine and Fast and Furious 6 was 2013. And Furious 7 was set to be released the same year as Days of Future Past, but because of Paul Walker's death, it had to be postponed. That's interesting. Maybe it's like a rivalry with Fox and Universal. Hugh Jackman and Ryan... Oh, I was talking about this before. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds were named People's Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. Jackman was named in 2008. Reynolds was named in 2010. Reynolds was also named Sexiest Dad Alive in 2016. God. Skip Woods rewrote David Benioff's script after Gavin Hood was hired. Oh my god, so many rewrites. Jesus. Lots of rewrites. I think they just realized they're like, holy shit, the script that David Benioff written is just garbage, and what the fuck do we do with it? Oh, he just forgot. Beef. A proper beef with that man. It's funny how they didn't turn up to San Diego Comic-Con. To their own, like, trial.
Yeah.
And then, what was it? I think Seth Rogen, like, talks smack about them on his panel.
Yeah.
Director Edgar Wright was originally approached for the role of Bolt, but he declined, claiming he did so because he simply wasn't an actor.
Yeah. What a weird choice.
Why would you approach him to play ball? Why wouldn't you just be like, hey, can you direct this film and make it good?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, imagine Edgar Wright doing an X-Men film. That would be awesome.
Well, now, maybe one day. Now that we're going to get new X-Men films in the MCU in the next couple years.
Do you reckon WandaVision is going to have anything to do with that, or?
I would more see Doctor Strange, since that will revolve the multiverse.
Yeah. I just want, like, I don't know.
Unless they do have a connection between that and WandaVision, since Wanda is in Doctor Strange.
I just want Doctor Strange to bring the Raimiverse into the MCU.
Yes, please.
Like, you imagine, like, a scene where he's with Tom Holland, and he, like, opens this portal, and you just hear Danny Elfman's theme. And Tobey Maguire steps through the portal.
If they ever did do a Spider-Man multiverse film, they absolutely need to incorporate every single musical theme from the previous films.
Yes.
Because then there's no satisfying conclusion for it, for me.
Yeah. And then you need to have Sam Raimi do Spider-Man 4.
Yes.
Please.
Even if it's fucking, like, animated or anything, just fucking do it.
Well, I'd love a film where, like, it's just, like, I don't know, just Spider-Man 4, that'd be great.
Yes.
I don't know what you'd do with it, but do something. But that's just my nostalgia talking, you know. I don't actually know what I'm talking about.
Oh no, we don't. We're just blinded by, you know, our love as a child.
Yeah.
Not looking at it objectively.
Yeah. Imagine like you see the portal open, you like think it's gonna be that, and then you hear this awful dubstep, and it's fucking Andrew Garfield. And they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have another film by Mark Webb. Have you read? That would be like the biggest fuck you.
Yeah.
Alright, that's enough trivia. We've gone on for too long. Give your conclusion and a rating out of 10 for X-Men Space Origins : Space Wolverine.
It's mediocre. It does so many things wrong. The effects are pretty shockingly bad. The one few things they probably get right are Wolverine in terms of just his character. He's very entertaining. The one scene with Ryan Reynolds is great, but then when he comes back, it's awful. All the other characters I don't care about. They're introduced and then killed off within half an hour of their introduction. The story itself could have been really good, but it's executed poorly. Yeah, and I would say there's a lot of just mediocreness surrounding it with its direction, writing, and music. I wasn't that bothered by, but wasn't memorable. So I have no urge to ever watch this again. So I'm going to give us a 3.5 out of 10. And I was preparing it to give it lower than that going into it, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it's still not good.
Wow, worse than Incredible Hulk?
Oh yeah, I would say so. But it's right next to each other, but it's just This is much worse because I think Deadpool is so mischaracterized. It's like really bad.
And also the fact that there was expectations for this, whereas with Incredible Hulk, it's like we already know it's going to be like pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, X-Men Origins Wolverine is disappointing, like people say, but it's not the worst film ever made, like people say it is. That's the one thing I'm going to say is that it's not the worst, because that's The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But yeah, it's odd. I think the first 20 minutes I was a bit like, oh, this is not what I wanted. No, but it's subverted my expectations, so I have to like it. Whatever, fuck off. Yeah, so there's it's got the adamantium scene where he gets filled with his metal is cool, and there's small characters in there that are built up with a little bit of like, oh, this could be cool, and then they get killed. David Benioff's writing is poor and just very, very, very fanficky and fucking frustrating. Um, he's just one of those writers that really pisses me off with the way he approaches things, and this film was no exception. The ending was flat. The CGI was terrible. The characterization of Deadpool was terrible. The performance of Liev Schreiber was not convincing. The love interest was very attractive when it was a love interest. As soon as the twist happened, the writing went bad. It didn't make sense. And aside from some small fleeting moments of enjoyability, overall it's a very unnecessary, just not very good film, to be honest. I feel like maybe if I was like a hardcore X-Men fan, I'd probably hate it more, because I think that's maybe part of the case. It's like if you've read the comics, then this is like a big disappointment. But because I don't really give a shit about X-Men, because I didn't even really like the trilogy either, the impact of it being negative is not as harsh for me as it would be if I cared. So, ooh, now I'm going to say it's worse than X-Men 3, but do I think this film is worse than Dark World? Do I think it's like as bad as like Incredible Hulk, Amazing Spider-Man 1? Do I think it's worse than that? Ooh, I'm going to say that whilst Dark World is absolute garbage with its Earth plot and its Earth characters, at the very least, I do like Asgard. I do like the Dark World stuff, and I do like Loki. And I love the special effects, which is something that this film was seriously lacking in. So I'm going to say this film is worse than Dark World. And I think this probably is probably like in the same tier as like an Amazing Spider-Man 1 or like Incredible Hulk. But is it worse than that? I'm not sure. I don't think I quite got as pissed off at this film as I did with some of the others. Because, like I said, I don't really care. So,
Yeah.
there isn't that much for me to...
Like right now, because I don't think the original X-Men trilogy is as good as probably people think it is, I'm not as invested in this as I would be for anything else. So
yeah. So I think I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Yeah, it's not quite egregious enough for me to put it lower, because it doesn't ruin something that I care about. It ruins something that I don't care about, and that's bad. And the only reason why it's lower than X-Men 3 is because David Benioff's writing fucking triggers me so hard, and the special effects are terrible. Like I would say it would be like, I put it at a 5 because that's like the average rating. David Benioff's writing puts it down to 4.5, and then the bad special effects puts it below Dark World at 4, because I gave Dark World 4.5. So yeah, I'm gonna say 4 out of 10 for this film. And if Dark Phoenix is worse than this, then God help us.
Oh God.
Yeah. A lot of people say it's like the Captain Marvel of X-Men, which is worrying, because I don't want that.
That fills me with so much hope.
Yeah, because Captain Marvel was a 2.
In my eyes, Captain Marvel is the worst film I've seen out of all the ones we reviewed.
What, worse than Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah.
Wow.
I put them on the same level, but I would say Captain Marvel is the worst film, because it totally mischaracterizes the character. Like,
But so does
Every
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh yeah, but every action, because it's an origin story, every action she does is what we assume what her character is. She attacks random people for no reason. She breaks things for no reason. She shoots first and asks questions later. It's terribly characterized, and anyone who thinks it's good is wrong. You
Oh
can
no,
like it,
I
but it's
definitely agree.
bad.
I definitely agree. The only reason I put Amazing Spider-Man 2 1.5, which was a half point below it, which isn't really that much. The only reason I did that is because I actually care about Spider-Man.
Mhm.
And when I saw him in that film, I was like, fuck you, Sony. You bitch.
Mhm.
But that's fair. Captain Marvel is also a pile of trash and
Mhm.
one of the most boring films I've ever seen in my life.
She kills the scrolls and doesn't care, and the guy who is a scroll doesn't care.
And
How could you think this film was good?
the villain of the film is Jude Law because he's a man.
And Jude Law is the best part about it, but even then, it's not that great.
And the cat eats a tesseract, and the cat scratches Nick Fury's eye.
And it means nothing. It's just a scratch, as he says.
Fuck's sake! How did that film come out 1 month before Endgame?
I don't know.
I think it might be because like Marvel was like they put all of their eggs into Endgame. They're like, we need to
They
make.
fucking just should have left Captain Marvel to be introduced in Phase 4. Just leave her out. You don't need her at all.
I
Just
think
have
the
her.
I think the only reason why they had to in story is because Thanos wiped out half the universe. So like if she's
But they
in the
didn't
universe,
need her though. They
I know
didn't
that
need
I
her.
know. I
Uh,
know what you're saying. But like if you're talking from like a like in terms of like, oh, we need to prevent plot holes. If you think about it, wiping out half the universe would get her attention. So
just
if
say she
she
snaps away. There you
Oh
go.
yeah.
Problem
Oh fuck, that
solved.
would be great.
There you go. She was snapped
But
away.
but you
Problem
need but you
solved.
need but you need someone to bring Tony and Nebula back to Earth.
They could have just been on. You could just say they went on a course and they just managed to survive. There you go.
Nah.
Well, Nebula knows how to operate. Probably knows how to operate the ship because she deals with ships all the time. So she probably knows, hey, I can just direct this to Earth because this guy is clearly from Earth. He could just say, hey, I'm from Earth.
Yeah, but Iron Man's not Captain Marvel, so we need to have I don't know
Yeah.
feminism.
But you
Save the
see what I
day.
mean? Like, there you go. I've easily fixed the beginning of the film, and Captain Marvel does not need to be in the end game. That's what they should have done. Have her
Yeah, but
snapped
she's
away,
a
and that's how you get Tony into Earth.
yeah, but she can't be snapped away because she's a strong female character.
And fuck off.
This argument could go on for hours.
It can, because Captain Marvel is a fucking awful character. What does she learn? What does she learn? That
that
she's as good as she thinks she is?
that
Fuck
deleted.
off.
I reckon that you know how we were saying like the Darth Vader scene in Rogue One's the best scene in Disney Star Wars.
Mhm.
I would say the deleted scene from Captain Marvel, the bike scene, is the
It's the
worst
worst.
scene in,
Yep.
in the MCU. It's fucking garbage.
Oh, but he sexually harasses her. I mean, he doesn't. Fuck off. If you jump to conclusion that he, in that deleted scene, sexually harasses Captain Marvel, then you're fucking stupid. I don't care who you are. You're fucking stupid. You clearly don't know what the definition of sexual harassment is.
But
He offered a ride and says, they call me the Don.
yeah, but he's a man, so
Yeah,
he's
oh
wrong.
man. Oh, where were the days? Oh god. Like, man, people are so like fixated on like sexual harassment. It's like if a man just approaches a woman and does like, hey, I think you're sexually attractive, that's sexual harassment, clearly.
It's also funny because this is in the 80s when like
Mm-hmm.
this kind of weird, warped third wave culture didn't even really exist at all. Like if like most people that were like this, you were just like, what the fuck, you're crazy.
I'm telling you, if they include that scene, there'd be people who'd be like, "Yeah, you go." Fuck off.
Yeah, someone probably wants like an
I
extended
would
edition.
love to just have a full blown like debate
What
with
do
someone
you?
who loves Captain Marvel.
I feel like you reckon. I don't know for sure, but do you feel like on the DVD that they just released that they did like an extended edition with that scenes in it?
Oh no,
Oh,
there's no way they would include that. Then they know the amount of backlash that would get from people who have a brain cell.
yeah. But do you know what they do need to do, and not Marvel? But do you know what does need to happen? An extended edition of Deathly Hallows Part One, where they add the background to the scene where he says goodbye to Dudley. It's such a good scene, but they don't add it because they haven't done the special effects on it.
No.
Ah, it's like satisfying. It's like something from the first film that had been building and if I
Nah,
can,
nah, fuck it.
yeah. Oh well.
But anyway,
Just
fuck Captain Marvel.
yes. So that makes X-Men Origins Wolverine not feel so bad now.
No, oh no, it's a much better film than Captain Marvel because at least the characters you understand who they are
At
and you
least the
understand their characteristics.
at least the lead can act.
Oh yeah, Hugh Jackman knocks Brie Larson out of the park in performances in those two films.
Oh well, Brie Larson does her own stunts. No, she doesn't.
Does this look cool? If it looks cool, then whatever.
Pretty sure Hugh Jackman's ass is bigger too. Sexiest man.
Everyone's ass is bigger than Brie Larson's.
Yeah, even fucking Tom Holland, who's like a kid. Oh dear. Yeah. Anyway, um, anything else to say about X-Men Origins Wolverine or other films that we don't like?
No, just
Well, that means that next time, of course, we're going to be doing the other Origins film, called X-Men First Class, which
oh boy.
I've heard is not very good either.
Mm. I don't know. I'm wondering how it will go. So
Yeah. Apparently, it's not as bad as this one. So
like,
that's a
I
good
heard,
sign.
I heard like it was a comment, so it could have been they could have been like they think it, so it might be subjective. Like, oh, they think it's a good film. So I don't know. I have no expectations going into it.
I've got a strange feeling that it's not going to have the same problems. It's going to, like, my prediction for First Class is that it's not going to be a terrible film, but I just won't care about it
Mm.
because it doesn't have Wolverine. Or does it? I don't even know. I can't even remember.
No, I don't think it does. It's more about the core X-Men team apart from Wolverine.
Right. So you reckon maybe it was like, oh, we're going to do Origins films for all of the characters, and then they're like, actually, no, we're not. We're just going to do them all in one film.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, if we've got nothing else to say, I suppose we should end the video there, right?
Yep.
Okay, we will see you next time for X-Men First Class.